Why didn't the younger wolves age up to 25 like in Breaking Dawn? So they did, or they would have. The films just didn't quite depict that for a few reasons, I would imagine. To clarify what we're speaking about, from the makers of Renews It, was born with a fully developed brain and has adult-like proportions, whatever that means, as a toddler, except she's not really a toddler, she's like a couple weeks old. Wait until you hear about the werewolf aging, because there's a ton to say here. This is also quite a layered facet of the racism here. So when a werewolf shifts for the first time, so when they turn to a werewolf for the first time, their aging is frozen, meaning they're not going to grow any older until they choose to stop phasing, and they do that for a while, and then they can age normally. But what is happening when they get that whiff of vampire, because that is what triggers the transformation, it's the presence of vampires, they're already starting to go through this growth spurt that is triggered by it, where they age up to be physically 25. Now that has nothing to do with their brain, that has nothing to do with how old they actually are, because remember, Jacob was 16 years old, and he is still 16, about to turn 17 by the end of Breaking Dawn. So what you have is this 100-plus-year-old all-powerful white billionaire immortal who gets every pass in the world for being forever 17 because his brain is frozen and he's just a boy. And then you have an actual 16-year-old who is held to the standard of a grown man, you know, a grown man in love with a native teenager, actual teenager, who is judged much more harshly and held to the standard of a grown man. Now that would happen anyway, right? So not only are they not allowed to be treated like or viewed as the children they are, but the wolf pack is physically aged up. So the author is saying they don't look like kids either. And you see it all the time. I have personally gotten comments when I talk about this and I say, like, Jacob and Edward are not equatable. Bella and Edward are not equatable because Bella was a child. Jacob was a child. And I will get comments saying, well, in the books, they're aged up to 25. So was he really 16? Yes, he was really 16, just because Stephanie made the wolves look physically 25. And then what this comment was asking about, the really, really young werewolves, because the Cullens chose to return to Forks and then stay in Forks and then bring tons more vampires into the area because they're so thoughtful and considerate and selfless, even younger kids started to shift. There are two official pack members in the books, Colin and Brady, who are 13 years old. And like, there's this scene in Breaking Dawn, one where you see Jacob see this like young kid turn into a werewolf, and he kind of helps him, and he's kind of like mentoring these young boys, and they look like little boys here, and they are, but like, according to the books, they would look to be 25. We're not seeing that, right? Because the movies want to show us that these young kids are transitioning and Jacob is helping them, right? And that's not going to translate if we have like 25-year-olds doing this, because the movies did get into the whole aging thing. But yeah, they would look 25 according to the books.